sources is yeah. There's a fleet of airplanes coming to that. Hawaii. Oh, by the way, they're coming from a different direction. No, there's still B-17s coming from the mainland towards Hawaii. Like literally every country. Like the Trojan horse. Like was that the Spartans? They were like, yeah, sure. You just let's let this big thing into our old city. That's not a problem. Come on, hubris is every culture. Everyone. There's no one who's not up to hubris.
The IRGC, they told Israel would never attack them, and now they're bringing their hubris to Texas. Yes. Congress, Israel would never attack them. That the 107 instances tell something that you can actually push it on. You guys did it. I believe it. I got you. At the same time, yes.
So that's my answer. I don't care.
What about the 50,000 responsible girl being slaughtered? What about the 50,000 school girls being slaughtered?
Okay, everyone mic up.
Okay, what about that?
Everyone mic up for a second. When the United States of America did an attack, it was a response aimed at a military base. It was a response on the killing of 52,000 protesters. President Trump even warned, if you execute that Olympic Iranian athlete, we will come for you. He warned. And you still executed him and 567 others.
But you don't care
From the day of the massacre, yes, from the day of the massacre until, I think it was a month ago, 567 people you executed.
So the war was about helping you.
It's a response.
That's the new goal. Nothing know about that. What was about ally the region. So he's not letting help the Congress. Wow. And by the way, today he said they're not opening up the whole vote. Straight up over. That's the new goal. To defeat the enemy. The goal is just to open up the straight up over. No, the goal is to defeat the enemy. Oh God. Yeah, it's like what's going on with Israel attacking? I thought you were gonna lay a I didn't expect Iran to become like a hegemon. Obviously, it happened. It happened. It happened already. Lost control of 40% of the industry. I mean, you mean they're firing like Somali pirates? They're like Somali pirates. Now you're like Somalia. I'm a failed state like Somalia. And I'm pretty sure they're going to start charging their new future. I see it. You made it wrong. You're like Somalia. And you made all very angry. And what you do is you attack innocent civilians. It was going to be a regime change. Nothing happened.
Sorry. You can only speak. Done. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? No. Sorry, we freaking out. I don't know. Hold on. Is this done yet? Remember you said, oh, the MOU. Is that all the Iranians got excited, the pro-regime? Oh, we won as calm. Hey, it's only the beginning. It's early stages. Without question. So, what when you say that Iran is they became this and that if it's not done yet?
I said from day one, we don't believe that we didn't say that shit.
No, a lot of the people that believe in that MOU, especially the ones that had nothing to do from that region, they were just Muslims protecting Muslims.
Well, maybe, but the people
they came in screaming, oh, Iran.
But you can actually fact
Wow, sorry. Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
So you know that was a lot of money.
Hold on, hold on. Oh, okay, let's go step by step, okay? I like this guy. You guys, love you. Thank you for coming to my room. So
Thank you for coming, Ali.
yeah. Wait, so I
you think I got my country.
I don't think anything.
You think you attack my country and you kill my people. You can't. Hey, I can do it. I can do it. Okay.
thank you, Jason. That's exactly what's happening there right now on a major point. So Ali, I can give you the next APAC meeting if you want to know what it is. If you guys gonna do something. You guys want to attack America? You want to bring it to America? God bless.
Come visit.
Alhamdulillah. Come.
We don't attack America. We will attack AIPAC. We will attack Israel. Okay.
Habibi, don't bring up.
Who is controlling your country? Okay, you don't know who is controlling your country. But we know. Okay, we attack who control your country. We attack.
Oh, man, retarded.
Absolutely.
You them like did he fucking bypass something? This Irish region.
I don't get it.
He's noticing this is the only account I can't mute.
Yeah. He has a
I
hard time.
couldn't understand. I couldn't
No,
understand.
it's all good. I'll quiet. I for 1 second. So, as we say, Habibi, come to the U.S. Come attack U.S. God bless. Alhamdulillah. But
We attack US. When you attack my country, we attack also your country.
Alhamdulillah, we want to.
You're fucking idiot.
You know what's gonna
What
happen
are you talking about? You think we are
What are you
idiots?
talking
You
about?
think we are
What
idiots?
are you talking
can
about?
be-
What are you
can
talking
be
about?
my country and you attack us. And you
Vettori.
think we are waiting and you attack us when you are killing us.
What are you talking about?
We killing you. We killing APAC. We killing these people. We are controlling your country.
We're killing IRGC. We're killing you, Ahmad. You're gonna be
We killing IRGC. We killing IRGC. We killing
We will kill you. You will be Jahannam. Borkumsho, Jahannam.
You don't know what is going on in your country. You are brainwashing with this fake media. This motherfucking Trump told one thing.
Wait up. I need you to come back up because I can't control your mic. I don't know why. I'm gonna invite you back up.
Don't do that, Rafi. Don't let him back up.
No, I want him back up. Come back, Ali. Sorry.
Stop screaming though. Stop screaming.
Did you understand, Rafi? His logic is let me break it down. He said, if you attack my country, I have the right to attack you back. That's what he said. That's all.
I know what he's saying, brother. I know what he's saying. I just want him to come back. I want that lead to come back.
Hey, before he comes back, can I ask him a question too? Hey, everybody.
Yeah, but I want him to be on this.
I know. Before he comes, so he can listen.
I'll give him a Farsi so he feels comfortable.
Okay, welcome back on stage, Ali. Ali, please do not scream.
I don't
Talk
see
in
him.
a calm voice.
Yo,
I accepted him.
Something's
I'm inviting him again.
Yeah.
He's already been invited. Ali, can you leave the room and come back in the room?
Yeah, please, Ali, come back. I want you back on my stage.
I can't bring him up.
We can't.
Ali, please leave the room and come back in.
Okay, he's back. Okay, let's see if we can get him up. Okay, we got Ali back. Okay, I'm
Be on the stage, Rafi.
turn up hand raising, guys. Turn up hand raising. Hold on, Ali. I'm gonna bring you up in a different way. please. And one
Not
second.
needed.
You know, I think it would be, Rafi, it would be interesting to hear the TikToks and things that he hears versus what we hear. I'd love to hear that. The propaganda that he hears.
You think you have
He's the one that makes these TikToks. This is pure supporter and probably that works for him because he has to work with it. So Ali, I'm gonna let you talk to your countrymen, like your people. If they want, they can start off in Persian but switch over to English. Or
No, just English, just English.
if they don't speak
Okay, so Ali, I have been talking and speaking to people inside of Iran, even the ones, I have a back channel right now, I can screenshot it and put it on my PCR. This guy's from Bandar Abbas, the place that has been hit the most. And he still messages me saying, Javid Shah, can you explain why his narrative and your narrative are so different from each other? And he lives in Bandar Abbas.
Okay, I explain to you. These people are brainwashed with this media that support with AIPAC and the Israel people that control the companies like BlackRock, companies like Esri Shield, companies by these companies.
Okay, so he's basically saying they've been brainwashed. Okay, I have a question for you.
Wait, I'm talking.
No, let me wait. We got Nigel talking. Listen, we got it. You're basically saying you did.
feel comfortable.
Samji, let him,
He's from Iran, obviously.
everyone, sorry, stop interrupting. Not interrupt.
That's why he speaks. Speak.
Let him
You
finish.
dropping me.
No, I'm not dropping you. I'm letting you finish. Nobody interrupts Ali.
These people don't. These people.
Don't scream. Don't scream.
When you talking about true, Satan shake these souls people. I don't know. Okay. Wait. We are fighting.
Can you mic?
Wait.
Which may address aspects of voting machine interference, voter eligibility. Initiatives may highlight claims regarding voter eligibility. We know he's made these kinds of remarks repeatedly while stumping or while talking to reporters. And U.S. News and World Report is reporting that previous claims about a past election are expected to be reiterated. And we all know what that past election is. Now, The Hill is reporting that a White House official told them that the president intends to discuss the security of the elections. The speech is reportedly aimed at building support for proposed federal voting regulations. And U.S. News and World Report is reporting that, as I pointed out a moment ago, that there are congressional members and observers who are expressing concerns about the potential impact of these theories or public trust in upcoming elections, thus the topic of the day. So, we know that following the 2020 election, the president and his supporters proposed or filed at least 64 legal challenges and investigations into election fraud, resulting in a near total defeat in courts across multiple swing states. And we know that a comprehensive legal review compiled by a group of conservative legal experts in the report Lost Not Stolen, and it's the one to which I refer because this comes from conservative legal experts, so we're not looking at a potential partisan bias, tracked each of those cases and concluded that the claims failed to show evidence of widespread fraud. Well, okay, Gary, widespread fraud. Does that mean there is no fraud? Of course, it doesn't mean there is no fraud. But let's look at the outcomes of those 64 cases. 20 were dismissed outright by judges before ever reaching a hearing on the merits. 14 were voluntarily dismissed or withdrawn upon request by Trump and allies. 30 cases proceeded to formal hearing, of which 29 completely failed due to a lack of evidence or standing. Well, there was still one case, and that was in Pennsylvania, which briefly altered a narrow procedural rule regarding the deadline for first-time voters to provide identification, but did not change the state's election outcome. Okay, that's in the courts. What about investigations? Well, the FBI and the Justice Department, under both administrations, exhaustively investigated allegations and concluded, again, also under the Trump administration, that no widespread fraud or foreign manipulation altered the technical aspects or the results of the election. And there were, as we know, but I will remind us, bipartisan statewide audits in swing states, including Georgia, Michigan, and Arizona, where there were hand recounts. In Georgia, several hand recounts, unsatisfactory to this administration, he said, his Department of, his DNI, Director of National Intelligence, there to oversee the seizing of records in Georgia. There were data audits, all of which confirmed the accuracy of the original certified vote totals. So, I mean, we could go into a localized case-by-case data on how election challenges are legally evaluated. I'm not going to get into that. What's important is, again, with the overriding caveat, we have no idea what the president will say. You know, he may suddenly decide to talk about Iran. He may use this as anticipation, build up, getting the nation's eyes on the address he will make at 9 o'clock, and then say, I've formally asked Congress to declare war on Iran. He could, but there are no indications that he will, so we can only go on what the White House has briefed reporters on, reporters who are there on a daily basis. And by the way, this is not your typical leak, like, you know, something that affects the security of the nation, like the new Air Force One is ill-equipped to protect the president, which is now resulting in a witch hunt. This is stuff that the White House purposely leaks, not for attribution, to just judge how it's being viewed by the populace and or by the media. This comes from the White House itself, not people who are saying, meet me in the men's room and I'll tell you what's going on. These are people who are doing the administration's bidding, and it goes on no matter who is the president. This is nothing nefarious, it's just the way things are done in Washington. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to opine for all of us. Will Trump erode confidence in elections tonight? I don't know what he's going to say, but I think there is a concern, and I'm not alone in expressing it. I will start calling people in the order in which I see them on the stage. And today, that order begins with Marshall, followed by Alan.
I have no idea what he's gonna say. I fear that he'll go on some sort of tirade about the 2020 election and how it was rigged, and he'll spend the primetime address that he should be talking about something important, talking about the 2020 election. So that's about all I have. I'm knocking doors, so I'm a little I'm concentrating on other stuff. But would love to hear what other people have to say.
Well, if he does concentrate on that, and he tells us that the elections are not safe, they're not fair, will that erode confidence, do you think, in the American people, Marshall? Or do you think people have said, come on, we've heard this enough, we're going to go out and vote and we're going to trust in the outcome of the election?
I think people will say, come on, in particular it's about 2020, come on, we've heard this before, everybody's already in their camps, it's not going to be very interesting.
Let's see. And I actually hope you're correct in that. I hope that if, in fact, this is alarmist in nature, when there is nothing to be alarmed about, that, the voters will have enough sense to suss that out.
Dick, shut the fuck up.
Well, you are very articulate there, baby.
Suck my...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you got me. Guys, I'm going to have to close the room because he told me to shut up. What do they gain by doing this? Well, I think they gain by getting a reaction, which I'm happy that I gave them something to satisfy their interjection. So there you go, baby. That's my gift to you. I reacted to you. Anyway, hopefully, on the other hand, Marshall, there's always the possibility that he will provide new intel that's been given to him by the intelligence community that will cause us to sit up and take notice, and he might propose solutions to whatever threat the intelligence community has presented to him. And it might be a positive interaction with the American people today.
I would certainly hope so, but as I read in something, hope's not a strategy.
It certainly was in Barack Obama's election. Hope
You are right.
was a strategy.
I stand corrected.
Thank you, Marshall. Alan, followed by Scott. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, Alan is a single proprietor of a retail business, and when he is unable to answer when called, we actually are happy because that means he's bringing in moolah shmoolah, just so you understand why he doesn't sometimes respond. Scott, followed by Pirate Barry.
Gary, good to see everybody. Yeah, it's nice to see everybody here. I was looking for my table. I often close from. I'm looking, Gary. You caught me a little bit with my pants down, so to speak. But yeah, I can't find it now. There's this chart, so where I quoted from last time we discussed this. I will tell you, in all the swing states, Heritage Foundation collected data on 30 years worth of elections. 30 years, Gary. That's 3 decades. And they found that the number of fraudulent vote casts were like around like 0.00004 or something. I mean, they were minuscule. They just didn't. It doesn't. You had a better chance of being caught, being struck by lightning than casting a fraudulent ballot. It's not something that happens. Like election fraud, it's not something that happens. I think I might have found it here. Oh yeah, here, Gary, I have found it. So, we'll start with my home state, Pennsylvania. Again, 30 years analyzed, 32 elections looked at, 100,526,098 cases, ballots looked at. 39 cases of fraud. I'm sorry, Gary, I overestimated. So in my state, 39 cases, that's 0.0000388%. In Wisconsin, another state which you know well, Midwestern guy, 20 years they looked at. They looked at 28 elections, 45,329,695 ballots cast, 69 cases of fraud. That's higher than my state. Those Wisconsin cheeseheads are corrupt. You got to really watch your ballots there. That's 0.0001522%. Now, lest we say that we're being northern elitists, let's go to North Carolina. 38 years they looked at, almost 4 decades. 39 elections, Gary. 81,677,000 ballots cast. 58 cases of fraud. It gives us a percentage of fraudulent votes at 0.000710. Now Nevada, small sample case, 13 years analyzed, 14 elections, 8,506,824 ballots cast, 8 cases of fraud, 8, Gary, 8. 0.000940% of fraudulent votes. Now, Gary, your home state of Michigan, 17, they looked at 17 years of data, 26 elections, 64,520,604 ballots cast, 19 cases of fraud, 0.000294. Georgia, one of Trump's favorite states to look at, 27 years looked at, 34 elections held, 64,742,598 votes cast, 23 cases of fraud, 0.000355. And let's not forget Arizona, 25 years of elections analyzed, 36 elections. They voted a lot there. 46,626,379 ballots cast. 36 cases of fraud, 0.000845%. This is the kind of threat we're talking about. This is the number of fraudulent ballots, fraudulent cases in these elections. I mean, do you think if this is the nature of the threats, the money is definitely better spent on the transgender mice. I'm kidding. I know it was transgenic mice. That's actually very important scientific research. But I can think of anything. Where is Doge when we need them? Spending more money on our elections, we're spending too much money. If this is the amount of fraud we're spending, and we have a deficit problem and a debt problem, we're spending too much money. We could probably, I mean, there's no threats. There's just no fraud happening. At less than 1%, and way less than 1%. 0.0000, then you get some digits. That's just not, it just doesn't matter. It completely does not matter. So, this is just something that's completely insignificant. Again, I could think of a million things better to spend our money on. Okay? You could get a really nice dry cleaning job for all the cops in Philadelphia, or ice cream for the cops in Philadelphia. You could get by all the nurses in Philadelphia, give them a spa day. Anything. I can think of almost any amount of government spending. I could go through any of the lists that my conservative friends and talk radio and things they read out. This is what your government does. Anything absurd that they point out the government does is probably money better spent than money after election security. The election, everybody, newsflash. I'm not the news guy here, Gary is, but I'm going to be an amateur news guy. Newsflash, breaking news. Our elections are secure. Very secure. They're quite secure. And there's just not a problem. There's not a problem. Once again, I'll say it again. There's not a problem. So if you want to waste money, why don't we just have President Trump get a bunch of money and light it on fire on the White House lawn? I mean, that would be a better use of it. It'd be entertaining, it'd be good television, good ratings. I can't think of a worse way to appropriate our tax dollars. Gary, I don't know what else I can say. I've said it all, Gary, and I don't think there's anything that can be said. I don't think there's actually anything that's left to be said on the issue. I think the issue is, what will Trump say? We all don't know, but none of it will be true. Unless he comes out and says, look, everybody, I totally changed my mind, okay? There are no illegals like voting, and the elections are so secure, okay, so secure. That's the only thing he could say that would be true. Anything else he says will be a complete fraud and 100% bullshit. Thank you, friends, and good night.
Unless, of course, Scott, as I suggested, he presents actionable intel about planned interference from foreign sources.
Well, yeah, I know that's already happened. The interference was for Trump, right? I mean, we know that. We know the Russians did disinformation and things like that. We already know that. If he got up and said, "Look, the Russians wanted me to win very strongly, Putin powerfully and strongly wanted me to win," okay, he was so he was Vlad loves Trump. We have a great relationship, very strong. Very strong. You know, I don't so much like Zelensky. He wears like that. Although I do like that little Star Trek kind of outfit he wears. What we love about Star Trek was no DEI. Okay, white guy in charge. Like, you know, Spock was like a Guatemala. Okay, now if he says, I mean, look, there's that, and we know that. Of course, we know that there's Russian attempts. I think probably Chinese too, but it was for Trump. And why wouldn't you want? I mean, when people say, why would Putin want Trump to win? Of course, it's nothing mysterious because, like we can see, Hillary Clinton would have been much more interventionist, I think, and she would have been less sympathetic to Putin and Putin's expansive agenda in the Ukraine, in which Trump just kind of indifferent to it. I mean, in fact, one of the last things Lindsey Graham did when he was breathing and with us last weekend, I suppose, was I think it was Blumenthal or somebody was saying that, you know, they were thrilled that they were getting more sanctions on Russia. I mean, which is, you know, Trump is not anxious to do. So yeah, I mean, Garrett,
some of the indications are that he will point the finger not at Moscow but at Beijing.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think if Beijing wanted, was doing interference, I'm sure it also would be for Trump, right? Because Trump has not been super hot. I mean, certainly would have been more hawkish, I think, than Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. I mean, I don't know, Gary. I think tonight will be entertaining, possibly. That's what I'm holding out for, a little entertainment. If he goes off script and gets cantankerous, that would be fun. But again, I think it will just be the bullshit propaganda that we've heard. And it's such a, you know, what's frustrating is, look, I have a high tolerance in the sense of, you know, I think his bawdy, awful sense of humor is entertaining. I'm not one of these progressives or liberals that, like, I don't hate Trump. I really don't. I think he's pretty entertaining. But this is really criminal in the sense of, well, not literally criminal, but look, you're doing the opposite of what you said. You're not getting confidence in the election. You're undermining it. And there's only one group of people in the country who don't have confidence in the elections, and that's his devotees. And so what he could do, which actually would be an act of service and patriotism, is to get up and say, look, our elections are secure. I appreciate the devotion of my loyal fans, of my loyal followers, my loyal supporters. But, you know, this election was fair and square. And you know, you don't serve me or the country by, you know, purporting that this wasn't legitimate. I mean, I should have beat Sleepy Joe, but he won't do that. So what he's actually doing, this is the 1984 nature to it. He's actually doing what he's saying, the opposite of what he's saying he's trying to do. He's actually undermining trust in the elections by creating a false crisis that does not exist. Now, again, if you wanted to, you know, Jimmy Carter and, James Baker co-chaired an election, you know, bipartisan election reform committee, and they had some suggestions. You can Google it, look it up. Voter ID was one of them. I don't really care about voter ID. In my district, when I vote, I have to sign my signature. My signature's on file. Now, if I want to vote early, I need to show ID. If I go to City Hall and vote, I have to show ID, which I tend to do. But if I don't vote early, I don't have to show it. But I don't think, again, that's a crisis either. But gosh, I could live with it if it would give people more confidence. But I don't even think that's a big deal. There's just not that much voter fraud. And William will tell you, one of the few people that were caught in Philadelphia was a Republican. Most of the rare election chicanery that's happened in recent years that I've seen across the country has been Republicans. So not that it happens even that often, but so this is I rarely get this incensed, but this irritates me beyond belief because in an age where we're so divided and so polarized on so many things, here's one thing that we agree on: that our elections are secure and fair. They are. They are. That's every piece of this that. And again, this 2020 election has been litigated ad nauseum. We're a waste of public time and dollars. This is the one thing we should be able to unite on as a country for all our divisions, that when we go behind the curtain and push the button or pull the lever, we can be confident that our vote will be counted and that the winds of democracy blow on. And he's trying to undermine that, which is sad. Sad. Very sad, Gary. Very, very sad. Sad and nasty, like Gary Baumgarten. Gary can be nasty sometimes. Very sad. There you go, Gary. I'm wound up. I might need to. I gotta. They're serving brewed decaf right now. I need to slow down here.
But like Trump, you're very entertaining tonight. So, one of the things I just want to underscore, Scott, you quoted a study, and I just want to the fact that it comes from the Heritage Foundation, not the Brennan Center, the Heritage Foundation. So it's not as if that was a study that was promulgated by Democrats.
They don't have a lot of trans bathrooms at the Heritage Foundation
Right.
headquarters, is my understanding here.
Right. I mean, these are his folks. These are the people who vet out his nominees for the United States Supreme Court. And so you can't say that what Scott did was some BS analysis by some progressive or socialistic or communist or democratic think tank that's propagandizing just to undermine the President of the United States. These are his people.
Yeah, Gary, what I appreciate about that study too is that it's longitude. I mean, they go over years, more than 3 decades in some instances. So it takes into account high and low turnout elections, off-year elections, presidential elections. You're getting a really broad sample, right? That's what I appreciate about it. You're not, and you're looking at lots of different states. So I mean, this is. I don't understand what more data people would want.
By the way, do the data show any anomaly when it comes to mail-in only states?
I don't know. I don't know. Everything I've read is that mail-in is just as safe. I mean, the only thing I will say, and I grant this to my friends, about 2020. For instance, Pennsylvania was a state that did, because of COVID, mailed a ballot to everybody. Now, I had just moved, and someone got my ballot, right? I had moved earlier in the year, but someone got my ballot because my address was still there. I voted in person that year, but someone got my ballot. So I don't know. I don't think they used her. It would have died. I would have got notified I voted twice, I think. But I think COVID, there were probably some irregularities like that during 2020. I don't think were fraudulent. I think it's just sometimes people got multiple ballots or something. There were some clerical errors, I'm sure. And the Pennsylvania thing, I mean, that is the biggest nothing burger in my state. I mean, what the Secretary of State did, the legislature okayed it, or the Supreme Court here upheld it. And it basically, she just exercised discretion and I think extended the count a couple days. Or ballots that came in. There was a postmarking ballot issue that she extended by a couple of days. That's what was done. And it was because of the post office being overwhelmed and other stuff. No, should she have done it? Again, the legislature didn't like it. The Supreme Court thought it was well within her authority that the legislature didn't. Again, it was anomalous. I mean, again, this is not a widespread fraud, right? And I say this, and I'm not usually this partisan, but with Bill Maher, I say that Bill Maher said to J.D. Vance, the problem is you guys have two answers in elections. Either you won or they cheated. And that's terrible, right? I mean, but Nixon had a great case that he won that election. He conceded. Al Gore had a great case that he should have been president. What did he do? For the good of the country, I remember his speech. He said, "It's time for me to go away." Hillary Clinton conceded, right? Not that, I mean, Trump really won that election, but people that have had cases for not conceding have conceded in this country for the good of the country. But
Nixon did in 60.
Yeah, Nixon, that's right.
And there were large groups of people who believed the 60 election was rigged.
And that's because both Nixon and Al Gore, unlike our current president, care more about the country than themselves. And
Yes, they do.
This is sad. Yeah, very sad. Strongly sad. But I just think this is something that gets me so incensed because again, it's a waste of time. We could be talking about as a country climate change or healthcare or things that are really serious questions. I looked at a poll. 65% of people in the country are for Medicare for all. 65%. This is a 2/3 issue where we could actually get people health care, right? If parties get together, 2/3 of the country wants this. And what are we talking about? Elections to where there's no fraud. That's absolutely pathetic.
So you threw out a bunch of 0.00000 stuff. I don't remember how many zeros you threw out.
No, it was 4. It was 4 zeros, then the digits start.
Well, what if I threw out 1, 2, also 4? Let me see, 1, 2, 4. So the Brookings institution did a comprehensive study about mail-in fraud, voting fraud, concluding also that it is exceedingly rare, accounting for approximately 0.00043% of all mail ballots cast. Now, for those of you who eyes are clouding over by such percentages, as they do when I hear them and even when I read them, I will translate that. You're talking about 4 cases for every 10 million votes are to throw an election. Thank you, Scott. Pirate Barry, followed by Casper.
Hey, Gary, thanks. How's my volume?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Thank you. I used to joke that there hasn't been a free and fair election my entire life, and I was alive when Kennedy was president. But you can't even joke like that anymore. What you have is they conflate a lot of the terms, like what you said earlier with the Facebook and the Russians and election interference. You could argue that what Trump is doing tonight is election interference. Well, whether he says that the elections are safe, they're not safe, they're secure, they're not secure, what he's doing is he's putting it on the scale, for good or for bad. I can't see it being for good in any way, shape, or form.
Well, to your point, Barry, if Scott is correct, and I have no reason to believe that the statistics he gave us today are not accurate. If you raise an issue, sound the alarm about something that is not an issue, especially if it surrounds voting, I think your point is, just by virtue of the fact that he is raising this issue in a prime time event, no matter what he says, puts in the minds of some of the voters that there's something unfair, unsafe, insecure about the elections. and wrote,
it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The Democrats have made claims of election interference when they were picking up mailboxes in the street. This has been going on forever, back and forth. What doesn't make sense, the Republicans control the House,
The Crafties created a choke point here, beyond these dunes. Officers of the high positions, foot soldiers on the ground. We scraped them on Dragonback again and again when they just retreat within the caves.
Dragons can silver bloodstone fall out of the sky.
either that or the Democrats are rigging the elections and they are failing miserably. Thank you, Barry. We'll go to Casper, followed by Brian.
I think we should have a bipartisan commission to study China's impact on elections because both parties should be able to agree that China should not donate money to candidates. And there are pro-China candidates in both parties. Right? There's certain people in each party that get money from Chinese citizens and favor China in their approach. And this should be bipartisan. I'll give a very specific example that I'll pass the mic to someone smarter than me. Donald Sussman has clearly gotten an enormous amount of money from China. Donald Sussman. And there's evidence that Sussman has passed enormous amounts of money to candidates in both political parties that appear to favor the interests of China over America. So let's pray that this doesn't become partisan. Let's pray there's a bipartisan commission to keep our elections clean. And I'm done speaking.
I have ordered 10 ships in
But that
2010
which you
set sail from
refer
King's Landing to join the effort
Donald
in the Scottish
Sussman, even if what you
time and
say is
circumstance seen
accurate,
as a strength.
is not an
It's
indication
not my desire to
of
see you
voter
fail
fraud,
in your
correct?
cause.
That's not your
It's my
argument.
hope that
Well, no,
this
I'd
aid
like to
will
see
deliver the
all
victory that has thus far
all
evaded
the
us.
evidence. I think we've been surprised by, look,
I shall pray nightly to God
if
for your
someone
safety.
had described to you, Gary, 2 years ago, the immense fraud at centers in Minneapolis, you might not have believed it without seeing evidence. So what I'm saying is we as American citizens, we have been surprised by a lot of fraud revelations. We don't know everything. So rather than dismiss things out of hand, let's look at it. The legal precedent, the legal rule is called the gimlet eye. The gimlet eye means you're suspicious, but you examine the data. And some of the outrageous claims of fraud have actually surprised everyone in this room and turned out to be true. So why not hold our breath and look at it with a bipartisan? And yes, it's quite possible there will be proof shown that a substantial amount of voter fraud happened. Let's just hold our breath, have a bipartisan commission, and examine it.
What do you mean there could be proof that voter fraud? We've gone ad nauseum over the data. There have been investigations, and some of them have been bipartisan, and there has been no indication of that. You're proposing what ifs. What if this? What if that? You know, someone used to, very crassly, I won't say it quite the way he did, take on things like religious meaning. Said, I'll put it this way, if my aunt had male genitalia, she would be my uncle. What if? So I just followed your advice, Casper. I followed your advice and I did exactly what you suggested I do. Everybody can do this, you said. So I went to Google. Donald Sussman is not intentionally funding pro-China political candidates. Google tells me. Your source, you told me to go here, not my source. And I know I'm going to a Google. I'm going to Google. It may not be correct, I acknowledge. But this was your challenge to me and to the room. Instead, he is a major donor who exclusively funds mainstream Democratic Party campaigns and progressive committees. The pro-China characterization, and by the way, this refers to a story in the Washington Examiner, which is clearly not a liberal publication. The pro-China characterization stems from partisan scrutiny regarding his business investments rather than the political platforms of the candidates he supports. The Washington Examiner continues. The connection between Sussman and China comes from his financial portfolio, which has been highlighted by conservative media outlets. Sussman is founder and co-founder of New China Capital Management, an investment firm that manages the Cathay funds. Cathay. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. SEC filings show this firm invests directly in Chinese corporations. Some of these ventures include companies partially owned or backed by the Chinese government. The Washington Examiner continues, not the New York Post or not the New York Times or the Washington Post. Because Sussman derives a portion of his wealth from a firm with a financial interest in China's success. Critics use this link to label him a China-linked donor. They argue that the Democratic candidates accepting his money are taking cash from someone tied to America's geopolitical rival. And then it goes on, the Los Angeles Times has, according to Google, which is where you told me to go, has really taken a deep dive into who he funds. The Denver Gazette has taken a deep dive into who he funds, mainstream Democrats. The Washington Examiner concludes there's no pro-agenda, China agenda. So, thank you for suggesting that I investigate this claim about Donald Sussman. By going to Google, I have followed your advice, and this is what I have learned. I give you an opportunity for rejoinder.
Yeah, my source is the Los Angeles Times article about him. I consider the LA Times
Absolutely, I'm not even gonna listen anymore.
source, and the LA Times
Sorry, Mom.
clearly shows his very large income. He depends on the good graces of the Chinese Communist Party for most of his income.
So if he takes the money from the Chinese, from the Chinese government through his investments in China, which we know China either owns or controls all the major industry there, if he invests there and takes from them money, and then takes that money to support Democrats, the Democrats who accept that money, your reasoning is, are now being influenced by China?
I'm just saying that people should look at all the facts.
Well, those are the facts. I'm asking you whether that is.
I think, Gary, I'll answer you succinctly. I will answer you succinctly because there's a parallel situation. I'll be very succinct. There's a parallel situation that you yourself have brought up many times in this room. The government of Qatar sends a lot of money to Columbia University. Columbia takes that money and promotes anti-Semitism. And so
but they're taking the money directly from Qatar. The Democratic candidates who take donations from Sussman are not taking the money directly from China, so it's not a fair analogy. But let me throw one out that is a fair analogy.
Go ahead.
Okay? And I now argue that Donald Trump is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party by virtue of the fact that he has benefited from the largesse of Elon Musk, who has massive business investments in China.
Yeah, you're welcome to make that argument, absolutely.
Okay, so are you making that argument?
No, I'm not. The reason is very simple, right? Like, Sussman derives most of his income from the Chinese Communist Party, whereas Musk gets 10% of his income from the Chinese Communist Party. It's a question of degrees, Gary.
So do you believe in the free enterprise system? Do you believe in capitalism?
Of course I believe in it, sure.
So if I'm a capitalist, I have the right to, within the limits of the law, invest anywhere where I feel that I can make money, correct?
I think you should.
So if I invest in Chinese, if China manufacturing is part of my portfolio, which you're not familiar with my portfolio, but maybe I'm deriving the majority of my income from my portfolio, which is highly invested in China. Does that mean when I come to the microphone here, I am advocating on behalf of China rather than the United States?
Well, actually, Gary, I think you're such an ethical, good guy that if 80% of your livelihood was given to you by the good graces of the Chinese Communist Party, if you were getting 80% of your income from the Chinese Communist Party, I think you are so ethical, you would have a disclaimer at the beginning of each of your rooms, and you would warn us, your loyal, loving audience, that you may be biased, because there's a saying, he whose bread I eat, that's the song that I sing. But I believe that the fact that you've never made that disclaimer proves that because you're ethical, you get maybe less than 10% of your income from the Chinese Communist Party. So to answer your question very briefly, a man who gets 80% of his income from the grace of the Chinese Communist Party is suspect. Done speaking.
He may be suspect. Yeah, you know what's going to happen if you interrupt.
I apologize.
You're not going to get the opportunity to speak. So, Casper, so you can maybe question the business dealings of Sussman, but I think most people would conclude that it is a stretch that anybody who invests in businesses in China, with which we have humongous amounts of trade. Isn't China our major trading partner? Isn't it number one? That not only are they beholden to the Chinese government, but anybody who they contribute politically, financially to, is therefore beholden to the Chinese government. I think probably most politicians can be tainted with the same brush that you just used to taint Sussman. It doesn't hold up to inquiry. The people he is funding are not people who are identified as being favorable to the Chinese government. It just doesn't hold up to the scrutiny that you challenge me to look at. So I don't know. Maybe there are those who agree with you, but I think that's a bad way of arguing a point, a bad method of argumentation, when you throw out little facts as a way to cast aspersions upon a person and upon the people with whom they associate. I don't think that's really a fair argument. Usually, your arguments are fair. In this case, I don't think
Well, I appreciate you sharing by respectfully disagreeing sometimes. Thank you, Gab.
I'm glad I made you happy. Brian, follow up.
Hey, Gary, I just want to add something.
Yeah.
A little monetary addition. I think as a Democrat, I'm changing my mind on this stuff, because it shows that Democrats are much more likely, 55 to 45%, to have a valid passport. And the top states of citizens without passports: West Virginia 78, Mississippi 77, Alabama 70, Arkansas 69, Kentucky 69, Louisiana 68, Oklahoma 64, Indiana 62, Tennessee 62, Ohio 60, Missouri 60, South Dakota 59. South Carolina 59. All of those are red states. Likewise, Democratic-leaning states tend to have the highest number of citizens with valid passports. Just three. This is unbelievable. I can't believe this. This is from SecureDemocracyUSA.org. But only 23% of citizens in California lack a valid U.S. passport. 24% in Massachusetts. 25% New York. So, man, I mean, Trump could be enfranchising the Democratic Party. This might be the best turnout and the best thing to advance. I think Democrats should be for the SAVE Act, it looks like, because it's going to hurt Republicans much worse than it will hurt Democrats. Go SAVE Act.
Do I need to tell people that sarcasm was intended here? Or do you think they got it?
People know me, Gary.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Casper. Brian, followed by Ben Wan.
Hey, thanks, Gary. I think Trump is going to put on a show tonight in order to try to gain momentum for the SAVE Act. I think he's going to bring up some old claims. He's going to probably throw in a couple new claims. I doubt there'll be strong evidence. I mean, he would have to show why it was the case that such rampant voter fraud happened in 2020, but not 2024. I mean, was it just because of the COVID, the mail-in voting? I mean, if he's saying the machines were at fault, then, I mean, so he's going to have to, make that case. He'll probably include a lot of hyperbole, a lot of connections in his mind that make sense, and I think he will try to come across as convinced that the votes, the elections are at risk. And he's going to probably try to convince people to get this SAVE Act across the finish line. So I think it's, the top item on his list. I think they're running into an August 3rd deadline for some of the stipulations or some of the pieces of the legislation to take effect. And I think he's just going to go all in with hyperbole and, flame throwing to try to light a fire under people who call their senators, get it across the finish line by whatever method possible.
Is that healthy for the country?
No, I think he's willing to do whatever it takes. I think he's willing to get his agenda passed. He sees himself as, I think, in a position that he won't have again. If he doesn't win the House and the Senate, he's done. I mean, they're gonna impeach the shit out of him. The House will, and he'll be stalled. So I think with the gerrymandering, the SAVE Act, I think he's going to try to get gas prices down. He's going to do everything he can in this next few months to save the House and the Senate and try to get more stuff done. And if it has to, cause turmoil and disenfranchisement or political tensions to rise, I think he's willing to accept that. He looks at it like it's a fair trade, I believe.
Interesting to the point of the gas prices. He's been pushing this big MAGA supporter franchisee of gasoline, which supposedly is selling gasoline at under market value. In other words, it's a loss leader. I know what you're loss leading to. The convenience store inside, the coffee sales, I have no idea. And he wants other oil companies, this is a small startup oil company, to follow that example because they're being un-American, he claims. Well, as it so happens, these gas stations are located primarily in New Jersey and then in Pennsylvania, and I live in New Jersey. And several of them are located very close to where I am right now. And so I've kind of been paying attention, and guess what? Even their prices are going up. So he's got a problem if, in fact, the oil prices are such an issue going into the midterms, as you suggest they may be for him. He obviously has an issue we're all aware of. There's a great story out today in the Associated Press about how people, and I actually voiced a piece about this yesterday for Fox Television. I work in radio, but I voice pieces for television. And there are people who are finding groceries unaffordable to the point, and this is really not a smart thing to do, but if you need it for the very survival, you're going to do it. They're putting on their credit card their grocery payments because they don't have the cash money, thinking, well, somewhere down the line something will go well for me, but the income doesn't increase, but the cost at the supermarket increases. This puts them into financial ruin just to be able to put food on the table.
I think he's going to intentionally, so to address, I think what Scott, maybe Marshall said, I think he's not going to worry about undermining confidence in the election. In fact, I think he's going to do the opposite. I think he's going to deliberately undermine confidence in the elections. He's going to throw out a lot of hyperbole, a lot of loose connections or flimsy arguments about voter fraud in 2020, and he's going to use that to try to get the SAVE Act. He's going to say, here's what we found, it's really bad, it's the worst, and it should never have happened, et cetera, and oh, by the way, here's the legislation that is teed up and ready to go to address it. So I think he's going to deliberately light a fire under people's confidence in.
So he's going to lie to people.
Well, I mean, I don't know what evidence he has. If he just relies on, talking points that have been kicked around for several years, then yeah, I think that's a flimsy argument. I suspect they have something, that's new, and how strong it is or how flimsy it is, we'll have to see. But I think to him, there's no way Joe Biden got 81 million votes. And I think he looks at it like something was fishy. We just need to find out what. I mean, whether it was Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, whatever, I think he looks at it like it's out there. We just needed to find it. And he's going to make that case. How strong it'll be, who knows? But I think he looks at it like my window of opportunity to pass meaningful legislation is running out, especially if I lose, one of the houses of Congress in the midterms. And, this is, I think, his last hurrah. So he's going all in.
Thank you, Brian. So you're saying that he is a pragmatist, and he recognizes that there's a good chance that he will lose his any legislative agenda after November, and so he has to do by whatever means necessary, push what he feels are key pieces of legislation for his administration, because there will not be a chance after January.
That's right.
Excellent analysis. Thank you, Brian. Ben, followed by Steve.
Hey, good evening, Gary. Thanks for hosting the room. I'm still searching. Maybe I'll find them at some point, but I'm still searching for the people in this world who, or in this country, who haven't made their minds up about Trump, or maybe he's going to come tonight and present a bunch of new evidence, but if he's going to try to undermine integrity in the elections, I think there has to be a captive audience to that. I don't think that everybody's made up their minds about what happened in every one of the last election cycles, whether it be 2016, 2020, 2024. I mean, I don't know. I'm still looking for this cadre of people that are sitting there going, oh man, if I just had more information, I would change my opinion on Trump or Trumpian-related things. I mean, there's been crazy things happen in American politics, so maybe I'll tune into the address. I probably won't, but maybe I'll tune into the address tonight and be enlightened by something that the president says. But that hasn't happened in a really long time. I say that as somebody who voted for him in the last election. He just doesn't say anything he's not giving me any new information that I'm not getting from other sources. I know what he thinks about the SAVE Act. I know what he thinks about the 2020 election. I think everybody who thinks that the 2020 election was stolen is going to come out of tonight thinking that they thought the 2020 election was stolen, and I think everybody who thinks that it wasn't is going to have the same view. Like, moving forward, I think if Republicans win and there's something fishy going on, or that there's the perceived something fishy going on, like in 2016, I think you're going to have a case scenario where you have the Hillary Clinton effect of like, oh my gosh, Russia must have been involved, and again in 2020 with COVID, and then 2024, it's just, I guess this is modern elections. I wish we could just walk away from elections and going, well, I guess my side got their ass kicked. Maybe we got to go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to influence the American people in a way that benefits us politically. But I don't know, like, those elections are getting fewer and fewer in my lifetime. Maybe one of the Barack Obamas was that was the case, but I even remember going back to George W. Bush in Florida and all of that stuff. Like, it's just, I guess this is the way that we do elections now. So, anyways, thanks for the stage, Gary.
So Ben, do you think that if this is all about the SAVE Act, and given your observation that people's minds are already made up, apparently this is an attempt to address the nation, to get the constituency to push those members of Congress who are reticent to support the SAVE Act to move under the peril of, if they don't, all of these people aren't going to vote for them. I think that's probably what the strategy may be here. Do you think he motivates a sufficient number of constituents to push some of those Republican members of Congress who are reticent?
I mean, maybe. Again, I'm often surprised in American politics. So again, my jaded view of American politics is just what it is. But again, I'm shocked, honestly. I've been shocked before. I might be shocked in the future. I just don't think that, like, if you're a Republican and you're the type of person, let's be honest, who calls their text or emails or whatever it is, or gets on the horn to their local elected representative, I don't know that, like, I mean, we're talking about election integrity here. We're not talking about a low priority thing. Like, this is, let me put it this way. If you're really into election integrity, I don't know that this is gonna, like, again, I voted for him in 2020. Like, I'm not gonna call my local congressperson any more than I have already when it comes to this type of stuff. Like, I don't know who it is that he thinks he's gonna get out and push for this stuff any more than they would have already. Like, I think those people are already out talking to their elected representatives. I just don't know how many more. Again, I've been wrong, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all of a sudden, maybe this address lights the fire and millions more people go to their local town, to their local representatives and go, oh my gosh, this has to change. I had no idea until I heard Trump talk about it. I just think everybody's made up their mind already.
So if you, a 2020 Trump voter, don't feel that you could be moved by it, then you're the guy he's trying to talk to here, I think. So if after today your view change, if after today your view changes, Ben, let us know. I'd be really interested in knowing if he can move you. You are our proverbial canary in the coal mine right now.
There you go.
Yeah, Gary, I think that what Trump can do, though, I do agree with Ben that people are kind of in their camps right about 2020. But I think what Trump can do is continue to undermine confidence in the elections, right? That again, the Bill Maher line, right? Basically Trump's position, and a lot of Republicans that buy into it, I mean, are that either we win or they cheat, right? And so who was it? Was it Blanchard? When none of these nominees that Trump puts forth can say that Biden won the election. They won't say it, right? I mean, so this is because I think what this is becoming the new shibboleth, right? This is the new test of orthodoxy in the Republican Party for the foreseeable future until the post-Trump age. You're going to have to be someone that denies the validity of the 2020 election and also denies the validity of when Republicans lose elections, right? It's again that we win or are they cheated? And Trump has said the only way Democrats can win is when they cheat. He has said that on the record, that the only way Democrats win is when they cheat. I mean, how is that not undermining confidence in election?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ben. We'll go to Steve. followed by Big Emma.
Hey, how's it going?
Finally, I have time.
No, it's Steve, followed by Big Emma.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I know you heard your name, you got excited. I get excited when I hear your name too. Steve, followed by Big.
Well, you know, Gary, there is a nagging little question during the pandemic. How you generate almost 7 million more votes than after a pandemic's over? There is that nagging little question. And, you know, what's he going to do? I think previous speakers are probably correct in his analysis that he's going to try and generate some kind of narrative that'll make it the SAVE Act have a little more momentum where he can get it passed. But you know, the one thing that just always fascinates me, and it really does, why would anyone in their right mind not want the tightest election security that you could have? You're talking about the results governing the way that your country's going to move forward. And anything, like one of the things I've mentioned it to some of our people here, that some of the early voting, the way it's handled around here, I have some questions about it because I think there's security problems with it. And, you know, I just can't follow the logic that, you know, well, you got to have an ID. I got to have an ID when I go do about anything. So what are you really saying? That you're non-functional in life? You know, some of the logic that's thrown up against tighter election integrity, to me, it's just asinine at the core of why you would think that way. So what's Trump going? Is he going to undermine democracy? No, I think Scott's got it about right. I think Scott, his analysis, you know, I think by now we've got hardened camps at pro and con about whatever went on. I don't think there's that much. If there is the sliver that he feels is necessary to maybe perpetuate his bill through Congress, is he chasing like Don Quixote? Is he chasing windmills? I don't know. It could be, but you know, the larger thing for me is, why would you ever not want the most secure? You look at how Mexico does it. Mexico has extremely tight security on their elections. A lot of countries in Europe are much tighter than us too. Well, why do they feel the need to do that? And you know, I think it's obvious because the results and accurate results result in the will of the people. And anytime that there's absurd that it's polluted in a way, then you're getting a distorted view of what the country actually wants. So that's my biggest concern is why would you be against integrity of an election? And, you know, going and getting a driver's license or going and getting an ID is not a monumental task. I mean, I had one time where I had to get an interstate commerce authority to do business across state lines. People was telling me, oh my God, you'll be involved in this forever. Within a month, I had my authority from the federal government. These things are not that difficult. And they're being blown out of proportion. And you have to ask, why would someone blow something like this out of proportion? What could be the motivation? I'll leave it there.
See, this is great. You're casting a potential aspersion without facts to back it up. You know, there must be a reason why people are opposing the SAVE Act. What could it be? You use the comparison of Mexico, Steve. They have tighter election security in Mexico. We should be following their lead. Well, great example. Because electoral irregularities, systemic corruption, illicit campaign interference are measurably higher in Mexico than in the United States. So maybe one can make the argument that they have tighter security because there's a need for it, or maybe one could argue there's a causation here. You know, look what Tighter security got Mexico. Tighter security got greater corruption in elections. We don't want that, so the last thing we need is tighter security here in the United States.
So if you got a group of people that has propensity to distort an election process and you try and mitigate that, that's a bad thing. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Not at all.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
Not at all.
You said because there's all this.
There's a little twinkle in my eye over the fact that you use Mexico as an example. You just read to us that there is voter fraud. Well, why wouldn't you want to, take action to prevent any possibility of voter fraud? And then you use Mexico as an example, but yet the voter fraud is in Mexico. So
well, you can make the point, Gary, that it'd be exponentially higher without the controls. So what your argument is we have a disingenuous population that has a propensity for fraud, yet we want to open the door wider so they can commit more fraud.
Where's there indication that we have a disingenuous population that has a propensity for fraud when there is statistically no fraud in elections in the United States?
Well, let me ask you this, Gary. Do you think every crime that is committed, down from a misdemeanor up to a felony, is caught and prosecuted?
Of course not. Of course not.
Well, what that means is you have an unknown variable that you can't quantify. So when you make the statement that we don't know, well, of course, if someone got away with something, you would not know. You could not, could you?
Are you arguing that people in large enough numbers got away with voter fraud in the United States to the point where they were able to steal elections, but they were never caught?
What I am saying is there's unknown variables at play.
I agree that there are unknown variables, but I'm just asking you, I'm asking specifically if that's what you are arguing.
No, what I am saying...
You're not arguing that the elections were stolen.
No, what I'm saying, until you can quantify an unknown variable, you don't know its size, scale, or scope. For instance, when I was a kid, there was a guy down here, Joe Manchin's uncle, would come down to the selection, his Secretary of State. He would get kids to go out and find a local town drunk and tell him to give the local town drunk whatever he knew to buy his favorite drink if he'd come over and vote. It was known. It was all across the county. This was not even questioned. I mean, I've seen the guy do it myself. So does it.
Okay, Steve, if I... Steve,
you have to wait again, please. Go ahead.
Was that turned into our Secretary of State? Of course not. But it was a known quantity of things that was going on at the time. People knew it. Was it reported? Was it part of the state statistics on voter fraud? Never was. But it was well known fact.
I'll concede to you in my state. Let's say in my state, right? I'll stipulate this to you. Let's say in my state of Pennsylvania, okay? Over the past 30 years that Heritage studied, let's say that it would be fair to say, I'd say, let's go outlandish. Let's say the voter fraud, the fraudulent ballots were 100 times the amount that we caught. Is that reasonable? 100 times, that'd be fair?
Well, yeah.
100 times, that's a lot, right?
Right.
If it was 100 times as many as on record, it would mean that 0.0038 were cast in Pennsylvania. That's how many percentage of the fraud. That's if 100 times the amount of fraudulent ballots that they've caught. It would still be statistically insignificant.
And now you're quantifying the variable, aren't you, Scott?
I'm saying that's what you asked him to do, right?
No, I didn't ask him to do it. He offered us a proposition to give value to the variable.
I'm saying that what that over 30 years in my state, Heritage found, not Brennan Center, so the Heritage found that 0.000038 percentage of ballots cast were fraudulent. I'll give you 100 times more than that. That would still be 0.0038. If we times it by 100, it would still. It's just I don't think it happens. Or it's just statistically an anomaly.
Well, let me ask you this question then, Scott. Given that you would concede that number, and if you had the opportunity to lower that number from 100 times over what was reported to 20 times over what was reported, would that be a good or a bad thing?
I would say, look at this. I would say this. Would it be safer if we had we have like two or three street lights per block in my city, probably. Would it be safer if we had 15 on each block? Sure, it'd be brighter. But I don't know that we need that much safety. The same thing. I don't think even if it was 0.0038, which I don't think it is, but I'm just exaggerating for the point. No, I don't think it's good money. Even if that's the amount of fraudulent, if 0.0038, that's times what we have on record by 100. Even if that was the number, no, I don't think it's. I think we're already spending enough money if that was the number. But the number we're finding is 0.0038.
Scott, let me ask you this. Why did your Supreme Court have to go back and correct earlier decision about ballots that was cast in 2020?
That woman, okay, that's it. Look, that's a great question. I mean, why
did they do that?
Because the Secretary of State made a judgment call, right, to extend the ballot deadline, and the court upheld it at first, and then it was overturned. Right, that was a judgment call during COVID. There's still nothing about that if influenced the election.
Scott, the time, place, and manner in the election clause in the U.S. Constitution is very clear. The Secretary of your state had to be acutely aware of that constitutional provision. So what does that point to that your Secretary of State done? Your Secretary of State decided on her own that she was going to amend the U.S. Constitution because she thought it was necessary.
Right, and we have a process, right? We have a process that was looked at, and it was found she was in error, right? She made a judgment call.
Yeah.
She made a judgment call.
U.S. Constitution.
Yeah. See, that doesn't mean the elections are fraudulent, right? I mean, that doesn't mean that changed the election. That doesn't mean, but yeah, and most, as Gary said before, an overwhelming number of none of these cases, with 70 or 80 cases, none of these things have shown any fraud, right? I mean, it's just not. This has been litigated more than any election in my lifetime, right? And so it's largely because Trump can't deal with the fact that he lost. We would not be if Trump could be as big of a man as Nixon, or as Al Gore, or as Hillary Clinton, and just say, "Hey, I lost an election. It happens." But he can't do it. His ego cannot allow it. And so we have to do all of this, possibly expend all these resources on something that's not a crisis because of Trump's ego.
But Scott, there is another component to this. And I had a constituent come up to me one time, irate, was convinced about all the nefarious stuff that was going on within our body. And I told him, I said, I'll bring you right in here. We'll open the books. We'll go page by page. You can look at whatever you want to see if what I'm telling you is correct or incorrect. Now, they could have done a Freedom of Information Act and got the same thing. They could have done that. But what I was trying to do was instill in the people that was placing confidence in us to express their will. But there was nothing to hide. That I had no nefarious intent for anything that I was doing. So I made the offer. Did I go above and beyond? Yeah. If I would have done what would have been normal, I told them, I said, go fill out a Freedom of Information Act, and it'll give you what you need. But that wasn't my intention. My intention was to restore in that particular person confidence that they could come down and talk to me about whatever the subject was, and I'm going to shoot straight with them.
I mean,
Whenever you inject something into politics and you get some kind of angst within the populace, the best thing to do is find a way to come clean and mitigate it to the best of your ability. Does that mean sometimes you go above and beyond what would be normally reasonable? Yes, it does. But the benefit of that is you have a satisfied electorate that is more willing to go along with you the next time. And I'll leave it.
Wouldn't it be better if we had to bring our birth certificates and somebody that could verify that we were who we said? Everybody had to have a buddy. I mean, we could do that too. I mean, we could go as excessively as we want. I don't think it's, well, look, I think we might have to deal with this. You're right. I think we do have to deal with this because there is a crisis of confidence right now, largely with one group of people and largely with one group of people within one party, which Trump has started. Right, I mean, Trump. If Trump would have conceded that election like Al Gore did, like Nixon did, like other people have done in close elections, we wouldn't have this problem. But Trump's ego cannot handle it, right? And it's so bad.
I know, and that there's probably a lot to that. You're probably exactly right. There's probably a lot to that. But like I posed to Gary, is the fact during the pandemic that one party generates 7 or 8 million more votes than when you're out of a pandemic. At what level does that make any sense? At what level?
Well, I mean, look, I think that this has been studied a lot, right? And it's interesting because there's this democracy lab at Stanford that studied. I actually had one of these people on my podcast, not to talk about that, but they said that mail-in had no impact, that it was a high turnout election. They said, I mean, for various reasons. Yeah, I'd have to look at all the data, right? I mean, I do think...
you had the obvious impediment of fear of getting COVID and the fear of going out in public, and this should have led to less people.
You know what I will say? No, the anecdotes are not evidence, right? Anecdotes are not evidence. But I waited one of the longest. When I voted for 2020 in 2020, I voted 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was living in the city, but I was still registered in the suburbs. I hadn't my registration change hadn't kicked over yet, and so I had to take an hour train ride out, and I waited over an hour to vote in that. After that's the longest I've ever waited in an election ever, and that was 2020 during COVID.
God, was you a COVID spreader? Shame on you.
I was a super spreader, right? I'm just
Can I
kidding.
ask you a question? I think COVID might actually have had a converse impact. People get pent up. They don't like being pent up. Therefore, they want to get out and vote. And it didn't help that they were cramped up in their homes and watching cable television like everybody and your mother. And I think that was one of the largest turnout elections I've ever worked. When I worked in Georgia, in Fulton and Cobb counties during the runoff after the election, and there was just a huge amount of people. So I think counterintuitively, COVID actually set the stage for more people to be interested rather than less people to be interested, because there was so much less that they were doing.
And you know, Marshall and Gary and Scott all, part of this stuff I'm just trying to throw out contrarian points for people to consider. Not that I really believe all the points I've said, but we tend to get in these conversations where different views and different things will never be brought to the surface to be considered. And part of my conversation is just bringing something to the fore, and well, you might want to consider this. Throw it out in the trash or mull it in your mind a little bit. But it is something that people talk about, and it's something you may want to consider.
The thing that always comes to my mind is the 1876 election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden. And it affected the Democratic Party for 3 generations. And one of the measures that was taken as a confidence-boosting measure, Steve, was the Electoral Count Act in 1886, which was put in place to help prevent some of the super close results that they had gotten previously. So I do think you're right. Confidence boosting measures are important.
And I was
Yeah,
saying,
and-
Steve, I was saying, Steve, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say to your final point, that's the beauty of this forum. Everybody's point of view is welcome, right?
Right. And yeah, exactly, Gary. And, you know, that's why me and Scott can talk. And Scott holds diametrically different points of view, but you'd be surprised the number of issues we can agree on. So, just because.
Thanks for coming to my daytime rooms, buddy. You're a key contributor.
Yeah, Scott. And, you know, like I say, it's good for everyone to consider the complete spectrum. Is 80% of it trash? Yeah, if it is, throw it in the trash. Don't even mow on it. If something kind of clicks with you and you want to consider it a little bit, it'll probably make you a better thinking person. That's all, Gary.
Like you and me, Steve, you and I can both agree that the first time we went to a Mexican restaurant, it was a phenomenal experience. And the second time we went to a Mexican restaurant, how dare they consider that Mexican? How dare they even consider that
That's
food?
right, Gary. I was actually embarrassed. Over that, Gary.
Well, next time I'm coming through West Virginia, you'll make it up to me, because I think next time it's your turn to buy.
It is. I will too, Gary. I'll make sure I'll flush out a good restaurant for us next time. Thank you, man. Like I say, that's all I wanted to add to it.
Thank you, Steve. Big M followed by Michaela.
So, I think we're gonna hear what we've been hearing this, a lot of grievance, a lot of, you know, he's probably not stupid enough to be explicitly hateful this time around, but we're gonna hear a lot of victim playing, a lot of blaming, a lot of anger, a lot of, quite frankly, loser behavior. And I didn't even know the union was tonight until I got what he has to say, to be honest. Because all of the signs are pointing to a humiliating loss for him. I mean, he's already been accumulating losses from the other two branches of government that he can't control. There might be a chance that his Secretary of National Intelligence or whatever may not actually be confirmed. At least two of the people he's putting up may actually not be confirmed. He's losing a lot of Republicans. A lot of his candidates are losing. Things are just not going well for him. And I think we're going to hear a lot of complaining about that. And quite honestly, it's not something I'm particularly interested in. I'm not going to comment on the election integrity stuff, that I think the last few speakers have discussed it ad nauseum. But if the expression "so goes Maine, so goes the nation" is true, then we are going to have a really ocean deep blue wave coming up in November. Guys, Susan Collins is done.
Thank you for that, Big M. We'll go to Michaela, followed by Trent.
Yeah, I really like Steve's comments. Is that his name? Where did he go? I worked, anyway, I was, suspicious in 2020, and the things I was looking into about election integrity were the machines, Dominion, and the other ones I can't remember. And then also, the deal is that there was a federal office, I can't remember the name of it, that was in charge of standards for voting machines. And, huh?
CISA.
That sounds right. That's right.
CISA, I believe.
That's right. It was very confusing to, what was this organization or group or what was this? But the standards that they set to the states and all that, the states didn't have to follow them. They were voluntary. And some of the standards required that voting machines be made in the U.S., I believe, or all their parts be made in the U.S. So that was a big thing that I thought, or people thought, opened the door for, cheating, because they weren't. There's a lot of them were made in China.
Yeah, there was this thing, but
what happened? I can't hear you, Marshall.
It said, give me 2 seconds. It said that Dominion had manufactured machines that caused people to cheat. And Fox News ended up having to settle out of court to the tune of about $760 million.
Well, whatever.
In a defamation lawsuit.
They didn't want to fight it.
Well, the reason it's important is because by paying the $760 million, they admitted in court that they had defamed the voting machine company by saying that the voting machines were leading people to cheat.
Yeah, okay, now Dominion has now been sold to a Republican, and I can't remember the name of the company, that King or something. Anyway, they no longer, Dominion has transferred its, and I don't know how that's gonna affect how the way the machines are run, or et cetera, how they're used.
Well, does that make you have a little bit more trust in the machinery since the Republicans owns it?
I don't know. I don't know if they've had time to upgrade them. I have no idea. I haven't followed it since then. I
have to interrupt, because I don't want us to get into a position where anybody here gets sued.
Right.
Like somebody else got sued for their complaints about Dominion. Are you suggesting that there was fraud in that election because of the Dominion machines?
Well, that's what people were focusing on,
Right, but since you brought it up, and since we are told that the president is going to raise the issue once again about voting machines, are you suggesting, without even regard to one specific company, that there was an effect on the outcome of the election based on the machines that were being used?
I don't think the evidence was ever able to be brought to court, because they kept saying they didn't have standing when the states tried to bring it to court.
I think your recollection is not entirely...
I bet you Marshall remembers.
So because these complaints about and theories about voting machines altering or flipping the results of the election, they were thoroughly debunked. They were dismissed by the courts, and as you pointed out, they resulted in historic defamation suits.
Yeah.
And remember that there were counted paper of the results of the machines. There were extensive litigation over that, and all of that concluded that if there were any mistakes in the count, and there were, those mistakes were attributable to human error, not machine fraud.
You're talking about cyber attacks, certain states or whatever, right?
What's that?
Well, he's talking about the machines in general. The claim that Dominion machines themselves flipped the votes was something that was dealt with in 2 or 3 separate defamation lawsuits. And the bar for defamation is that what you're saying is not just wrong, meaning it's not just factually wrong, but that it taints the reputation of the business, right?
Okay, wait.
As a consequence.
I'm not claiming that. I'm saying.
No, I realize you're not. I'm saying Gary has said these things have been litigated. Gary is right. They have been litigated.
Right.
They were litigated, and the claim that the voting machines flip votes, which is the Dominion claim from people on our side of the aisle, has been debunked.
Yeah, in some people's minds, but the reason that
Not just
not in some people's
not
minds.
just in some people's minds.
Come on now, wait a second.
Hold on, in a court of law where there's heard of fact, not just in some people's minds, in the place we go when we have dispute to find facts.
This is what I remember. A lot of these suits from the states claiming problems with the machines couldn't make it into the courts because they said they didn't have say, or maybe it was the Supreme Court. Yeah.
The Supreme Court didn't want to take it. To have anything, you first have to have an injury, which means the thing you say has to be true. Upon investigation of the Dominion voting machines, the claims weren't true. And this isn't Marshall saying this. This is at least 3 federal courts of law saying this. Which again, the federal courts of law.
Well, they said so they really did a deep investigation.
Yes.
The courts.
Yes, because you have to be able to prove defamation beyond a reasonable doubt.
So the courts did the investigation and said they didn't have standing.
The adversarial process in the court did the investigation.
Okay. All right.
I will point out that with regard, there were 2 companies that were primarily mentioned in these.
ESET or something, or
The other one was Smartmatic.
Smartmatics, right?
So in one case, and I'm not going to go into those of it.
Yeah, I can't remember all these.
I can, but I'm not going to go into them.
Yeah.
But I just want to put that in one case that resulted in a massive settlement. There was documentation that showed.
Yeah, Fox. Yeah. Right.
Yes, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I'm asking that we not get into the specifics for several reasons. Don't put me in a position where we can't discuss this.
I understand. I'm not pushing it. Okay.
I know, but I'm trying to present this in a manner which I feel comfortable presenting it.
Okay.
Not, you can present it any way you want, but not in conversation with me.
Right.
I hope you understand my position.
I do.
Okay, so I'm just saying that in one of the settlements, prior to reaching a settlement, discovery showed that the people making the claims knew that they were false. Boom! There's your evidence. And in the other one, which there was a settlement, the company that was being sued made a public apology acknowledging that they had presented to the general public a falsehood. So this is not something in the minds of some people. This is facts and evidence that you can look up.
Yeah, okay, all right. Another concern that really bothered me, though, was because of COVID, all the mail-in voting that we hadn't done before to that great extent. It continues now. Like, we started it during COVID, and now we're continuing it. All the extended voting times, the mail-in,
we did not start mail-in balloting under COVID.
We extended it. We had it before, but we increased it.
Yes, yes, as is legal for states to do under.
Right, but why do we need it to the extent that we had it during COVID? Why do we need it?
It doesn't. That point's irrelevant to the time place clause. The time place manner clause, the states get to decide. So I'll give you an example. When I did this, when I was in Georgia, I did curing of ballots. So Georgia has this unique rule where if you filled out a ballot and it's been filled out improperly, mail-in ballot, they can have people go to your home, talk to you, and say, "Hey, you filled this out inappropriately. The signature didn't match. Like, we want to get you on the phone with a lawyer," right? And Georgia law provides for that. So what I found, the vast majority of the time, I mean, like 90-some-odd% of the time when I was doing this. And it's an anecdote, and anecdotes are evidence, as Scott said, so take it for what it's worth. But it was the spouses weren't infirm. So you have a husband whose wife couldn't get out of the house, and so they had to mail in ballots. Or you had a wife whose husband couldn't get out of the house, so you had to mail in ballots, right? And it doesn't, like, having mail-in balloting today is just a little easier. It doesn't really matter why states want it. States are in control of their elections per the Constitution and are allowed to have mail-in.
I gotta go. But the reason I brought that up is that would give people greater confidence if that was rolled back. The states rolled that back. I gotta go. Thank you.
So people can have confidence. The flip side of that is that they don't have confidence. They don't. Why do they not have confidence? I don't have confidence that mail-in balloting is secure, so we should eliminate mail-in balloting. I don't have confidence. Why? Because I've been lied to about mail-in balloting. Because as I pointed out earlier, the statistics show that there is statistically no fraud, and for sure no significant fraud, with mail-in balloting. It doesn't exist. But I've been told that mail-in balloting opens things up for fraud. So get rid of the mail-in balloting. Oh my God, we gotta get rid of it.
I think a truthful recitation of a concern would be something like this.
Yes.
Mail-in balloting in certain states did not have signature verification, meaning they didn't match your driver's license signature to the signature on your ballot. It also, in certain places, with states that did not clean up their rolls, and I only know this because I knock on doors for a living, you have people listed in houses that have not necessarily done change of address forms. So in states with universal mail-in balloting, if you're like California, you can, on occasion, and I've been told California doesn't do it this way anymore, so don't take it as California does it this way, but some states will mail out a ballot to those addresses, right? And if the recitation of the concern would be something like, okay, well, there's no signature verification, so they don't know, and they're mailing ballots to a place that this person doesn't live, and because there's no signature verification, somebody can fill it out.
Wait a minute.
I think if somebody were being...
Hold on a second, Marshall. Excuse me. You said no driver's license signature verification?
Yes.
Well, in the state that I live, when I vote in person, they don't make driver's license signature verification. So what's the difference between mail-in balloting and walk balloting with that regard?
I think the people who believe this theory would tell you there's probably no difference. I personally don't. I think the 2020 election is rigged stuff is silly. But I think that's maybe, in my mind, that's the fairest recitation I could give you of a problem, and the problem is weak at best.
If there's not a problem, why are we fixing it? Why are we fixing something that's not broken? I had my transmission checked on my car. Many cars with the amount of mileage that I have, the transmissions need to be rebuilt or swapped out. So I had them check it. There's nothing wrong with the transmission on my vehicle. Well, go ahead and give me a new transmission anyway. Because the transmission could go out.
A transmission.
Huh?
I said, who wants to drop $5,000 on a transmission when you don't need one?
Right. So why do we need legislation to protect us from voter fraud when I don't need one?
I mean, look, you know my view on this. I honestly, I frankly don't think we do. Like, I don't have an issue I don't have an issue with like having driver's licenses.
I mean, Steve presented the what if possibilities, and you can put what if on anything. Scott pointed out, what if it's too dark on his street? Something could happen. Maybe we need more street lights. How many? Well, there are 2. Let's put in 3. Is 3 enough? Well, no. There's still areas that aren't covered where a mugger could hide. Let's put in 4. Is 4 enough? Well, no. Well, wait a minute. How many muggings have there been on that block where Scott lives? None? Well, but it could happen. So let's light it up like Times Square. Which, by the way, if you're in Times Square, you could get mugged, you know. But that's besides the point, I guess. Why is the President of the United States presumably addressing the nation? That all of the networks are going to preempt their programming. People are going to be watching on the internet. Some people are going to wait until the morning to see the recap or see the clips on YouTube or whatever.
It's going to disrupt the documentary that I really want to watch.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to address a problem that has not been articulated unless he articulates something brand new tonight, which the White House hints that he may?
I will tell you what I can. Give me 2 seconds, Ryan. I'll tell you what I can do to like find a historical corollary for this. I will look at the 1876 election and see if there were any confidence boosted measures taken by the Rutherford B. Hayes administration, right? Because that would be an interesting corollary to know whether in 1876, when that election was disputed and the opposite party believed it was rigged for 35 years, high to low, to see if they advocated for confidence boosting measures. It would be interesting to know that, because it would give us some sort of mirror to hold up to ourselves.
There's another point to be made, and I'm going to get to Trent, and that is this. If the President of the United States truly believes that there's a problem with security in elections, what he ought to be doing is addressing not Congress, not people to pressure Congress. He should be saying, because the Constitution is clear that the elections are run by the individual states, he should be saying, ladies and gentlemen, it is incumbent upon you to force your state to reform the election procedure in your state. That's a different way of approaching the problem, in a manner in which you could really, if there really is an issue, effect a positive change, because it's not really in the purview, is it, Marshall, of the Congress?
No, sir, so the time, place, manner clause reads something. I'm going to summarize it basically. The states have time, place, manner restrictions, unless Congress decides to preempt them by making a law. And their laws on this preemption will only cover federal offices. So it will only cover House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, and the President of the United States. Everything else is left up to the states.
Okay, well, there is some wiggle room there then. Thank you. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you for that, Marshall. Trent, and Agent follows you.
Yeah, I don't know how you sit up here and have these discussions, Gary. You're gonna have a heart attack or an aneurysm trying to debate some of this stupidity. Because and I love my boy Marshall. Me and Marshall are gonna have drinks tomorrow, by the way. I just want everybody to know that we're gonna have some drinks down here in South Texas. Now, but here's the one thing I will say that you're wrong on, Gary, and why I actually think you might as well go ahead and have the Save America Act, because there are people like Michaela, and because there are people like Steve, and because the president is a malignant narcissist, and he is told 35% of the public, American public, which is about 100 million people, they are convinced that he is right and that there is a problem. And there has been some election fraud. It's not like there's never been any. And the remedy for it is a more secure nationalized database with voter ID. We have voter ID in Texas, me and Marshall. It works fine. It is difficult. Don't try to vote out of district in Texas I mean, you ain't gonna vote. Just forget it. If you move, just forget it. But it is a more secure process compared to some other states, and I don't understand why there's so many people against having a system that helps verify who is the actual person that's voting. I actually think it's a good thing.
Thank you, Trent. We'll go to Agent, followed by Dark.
Hey, Gary.
Hold up. No.
Okay.
Gave everybody else all that smoke. Yeah, I ain't get nothing. I ain't get nothing from you, Gary. You've been going off on Michaela for 35 minutes.
I did give her a lot of time, but I'm not giving you a hard time at all, and I apologize. Next time, I'll be ready to give you a hard time.
My man.
Okay, buddy. Agent, followed by...
You apologize if there's any echo. I had to duck into this back room so I don't frighten too many of the people who are around me. Yeah, I kind of agree. Someone mentioned that it's really up to the states. I think you guys would know better than me the exact Supreme Court case where I think this came up in the last couple decades about basically they said it's up to the states how they run elections. And my guess would be that precedent might influence somewhat if things get challenged again. They try to federalize elections more. I'm not sure.
It's not precedent agent. It's what it's called is the time, place, manner clause in the Constitution. And the time, place, manner clause is a clause that says that the time, the place, and the manner shall be restricted to the states unless the federal Congress makes rules governing the election of the House of Representatives and the President. Now, it didn't say the Senate because at the time of the creation of the Constitution, your senators were picked by your state legislatures. In the modern day, the rulemaking allowed by the federal government is for federal elections only. So that means U.S. House, U.S. Senate, and U.S. President. Those are the only three areas in which they can make law governing elections.
I appreciate that color, Marshall. Yeah, well, to the point of states having control in their elections, we used to have in this country different, I think we may have had poll taxes, but we had also, you needed to be, they needed cognitive tests or knowledge tests or, different things like that. Some of them were super basic. I remember a professor of mine saying his father in Massachusetts, I think it was, I might be wrong, he showed him one of these tests when he was 6 years old and he aced it. And it does really beg the question if you can't pass a test that a 6-year-old, albeit a bright 6-year-old, could pass, should you actually be voting, I would like us to kind of revisit some of those questions. And I personally want the states to be able to have that level of control over who votes in their elections. I think that's important. And every state gets to set their own rules. I vote in Washington State. Okay, people are Xing me out, so I don't know if they're far left or far right or what, but if they're MAGA and they just want Trump to decide every election, I'm not sure, but I'm getting the X's right now. Anyway, I'll keep going. I vote in Washington State, and I have voted now for over a decade by email. And I think some people get shocked with that. Nobody's, to my knowledge, checking. Well, I'm not even doing a signature on it, to be honest. So, or maybe I do, but I do one of those electronic ones. I just copy and paste. And then I email it in, and and then they send me actually a receipt saying, we got your ballot, it's being counted. It's like, great. Now, anyone could hack my email, and they could vote on my behalf. I just see I'm a somewhat technical person, but I just see so many ways, not only in my own state, but even during COVID, my parents just had their ballots sitting on the kitchen table for a month. I was like, I could just fill this out. And
send this in for you. I could ballot harvest right now and just, vote for who I want to vote for, and you probably forget about it if it wasn't sitting on the table. There's so many ways, and then also you get to, if you get these mail-in ballots, then the wife gets to, make sure that the husband votes a certain way. It's like, oh, if you don't vote the way I want, then I'm going to divorce you and take your kids away and stuff. It's like, this is the sort of soft corruption that happens certainly with mail-in or email-in voting that I know is possible, and that people are being disingenuous, they're being bad faith if they're saying these security things don't exist, or they're just completely stupid and ignorant. And I know a lot of people.
Agent, I don't think it has anything to do with that. There are states that don't have signature verification. So, like in Texas, for example, you sign your mail-in ballot on the inside slip. You then put it in an outside slip, and then you sign the outside of it, and then you send it in. There are states that don't happen to have signature verification.
What state?
But they're not. The one that comes to mind off the top of my head is Minnesota or Wisconsin, actually. But please wait your turn. So comes to my mind, they don't require signature verification. I'm not saying that I think cheating is likely. In fact, I think cheating is exceedingly unlikely. But mail-in balloting was pioneered by the Republican Party. It is very weird to have the Republicans say they don't want mail-in balloting because they don't like people using it. The vast majority of the time, it is actually sent to the addresses of the recipients. Yes, there are times when you send a ballot to a home and nobody's done a change of address form and it goes to a different home. But in the vast majority of states, there's some sort of verification measure, regardless of whether it's ID or signature verification or something like that. Not all states have it, but a lot of states do.
Okay, again, thank you for the color. I'm sure that there are, in the minds of the people who design the system, and in the minds of the people who know that statistically these selected voting systems and security measures are tuned for the outcome that they hope for in the elections. I'm sure that's all true, but it's clear, even signatures, it's like, this isn't that secret. When you actually, for an important legal thing, you have to get things notarized. You have to sign it in front of somebody, a legal representative who is reviewing the documents, reviewing the fact that you're there, reviewing that it's actually you signing it, and it's not some, sweatshop in another, country, or some computer printout or an audio pen below that is actually doing this stuff. We're in 2026 now. We have artificial intelligence. We have so many incredible technologies for manipulating the digital world. I don't even think an ink signature in 2026 is a foolproof, is by any means not even close to being a foolproof security measure. There are other much more sophisticated security measures we could use that even allow us to vote remotely on our phones. I'm sure that the engineers of Apple and Google know how to do this.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, so we're going to have to leave it at that. Apologies to those who are in queue and we can't get to them. I just want to say in parting, the Marshall was exactly right. Mail-in voting, the inception of it began in 1864, and it was because hundreds of thousands of Union soldiers were deployed on the battlefield. The newly formed Republican Party championed laws allowing soldiers to vote remotely from military camps and field hospitals, and my source for that is Time magazine. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock New York time. So till 5 o'clock New York time tomorrow for the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum. Everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.